evening and welcome to the live coverage of the United States Sprint Cup. Here live from Simply Race, I'm Ben Turner and I'm joined by Callum Cripps here at the Simply Race facility in Milton Keynes. Today we're going to be seeing 12 racers take on the challenging Homestead Miami road course. So sort of a half oval, half road course, really exciting circuit that has plenty of opportunities for overtaking. We've already seen a very close and tough both practice and qualifying session, and Callum, I know one of you could have a quick look at that for us and tell me what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the first time this season, we've got Matt Good-Scott in the Cam Sport car on pole position with a lap time of 1:18.48. So really cracking lap time from Matt. That's over a tenth clear from Jack Ashton, who's in the 130 racing car. Francis Harold, fantastic qualifying from him in third place. He'll line up third on the grid. Chris Hardwick in the other 130 racing car. He's going to be very quick. One to look out for, and one contesting for the championship as well. So going to be very, very close for those guys. Good to look out for. David Robson, also good qualifying from him in fifth place. Then we've got Cyril Jacks, Sean King, Michael Balding, Dave Hedges. Those two, 8th and 9th place, Michael Balding and Dave Hedges. So those guys will be looking to make up places there, looking to try and make their way into the championship and still some podium places away from the other drivers. Colin Talbot, I'm pretty sure he'd want a bit more than 10th, but unfortunately that lap just didn't clear up for him. But the top 10 only covered by 1 second, so it's really, really close. And they only have one qualifying lap as well, one qualifying shootout. So any missed apexes, any going into the corners too hard, that's completely ruined. So those guys will be starting further towards to the back, along with Jason Eccles and Erwin Klumpers. But yeah, it's going to be a fantastic race. We can't wait to get it started.
Absolutely. So stick with us. We are just about to go live on the grid with the drivers. Okay, so we're just hearing in the background that the drivers are just joining the grid, and they will be doing a formation lap first. So they'll be following around the pace car. As Callum mentioned, it is the end of the season today. This is the final round, round 4.
Yeah.
It's a very short season for the USSC. So
we've got a few scenarios which we think we're definitely going to see throughout the race, and it's going to be very interesting. We'll keep you updated on the championship positions as they go through. Obviously, we're going to declare a championship today. So Chris Hardwick, to win the championship, he must finish higher than 4th place, and he has qualified in 4th position. So as where he is at the moment, he just needs to go forward or stay where he is from there, and hopefully not get tangled up in any incidents, and he will be able to win the championship. If Jack Ashton does win, however, Hardwick has to be 3rd on the road to win the championship.
Right.
And if Michael Balding wins the championship, then Hardwick must finish 5th to win the championship.
Right.
So still we've got 5 drivers, I believe, contesting that could potentially win the championship tonight. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how everybody gets on.
Absolutely. I mean,
but if Michael Balding also, sorry, just to interrupt you, but if Michael Balding wins and Hardwick is 6th or lower, then Michael Balding is champion. So that's going to be very interesting to see how we get on.
I've made sure I brought up the point system, so I'm ready to get my calculator ready and work out exactly what's happening in this scenario. And you can see the drivers then making their way down the back straight, and they're going to come through the final hairpin. Yeah, this is where
probably the most important part on the track, because although it is a bowl section, it's very Daytona road course-esque kind of track, and we've got a long bowl around the back of the circuit where these guys are going to be flying around this corner, getting up to top speed. It is a NASCAR track, Homestead Miami, so these guys are just using the infield section. But getting the toe is going to be critical, because it can improve your lap time by half a second if you get the right toe. But if you get it at the wrong moment at the start of the straight, you'll be able to get past them too early, and then the person behind you will be able to overtake you again. So it's really timing the toe correctly. Now, the pace car is doing around 50 miles an hour at the moment, so those guys will have to hold their nerve just until they see the green flag. They don't want to get a jump start or a penalty. I believe the green will be quite early on, so we'll be getting the green any time soon. So we'll just wait, and off we go. So a great start from, I think that's Michael Balding down a few places back.
Yeah.
So as they go 3 wide for the lead into turn 1, I think it's going to be Matt Good-Scott who gets the place done from Harold and Hardwick. As they go into turn 1, very, very close together. And Jack Ashton manages to sweep around the outside of Hardwick and then tries to go out the outside of Harold as well.
But at the back, sorry, there was 2 green cars that definitely got collected.
Both DM Racing cars getting caught up in collisions there, so that's not good for their championship points. We've got Michael Balding all the way down in 11th place now, which is not where he wants to be to win the championship. And I think there's Dave Hedges also got caught up. He's still in 8th place, so I don't think he dropped too far down because he actually moved up a place. But we see the 130 racing cars in 3rd and 4th, both side by side coming through turn 5, I believe that was. So those guys just sorting themselves out. Jack Ashton still ahead of Chris Hardwick. So Sean King hasn't had a very good start either. He's dropped down from 7th to last place.
I think it was Sean King that was involved in the incident with Michael Balding, but I might be wrong, and we'll find out some decisions from race control.
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe we're looking at David Robertson at the moment with Colin Talbot just behind him. Colin's made a cracking start, up from 10th position to 6th. So these guys coming around the bowl for the first time, and they'll be getting up to around 150 miles an hour in the toe, all the way in the high end of 5th gear.
So this is the battle for 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th,
yep,
and 9th.
Colin Talbot moves to the inside of David Robertson to try and take the place away. That's 5th place for Colin Talbot as he goes into turn 1. Very, very tricky braking zone down to 2nd gear and then throw it into the left-hander. Great move there by Colin Talbot, and we can see Dave Hedges just getting onto the grass. And there's a bit of a tap and he gets spun around. A great save from Dave Hedges actually to hold on to that. But I think it was Eccles involved in that as well. Yeah, so Eccles and Hedges just getting caught up there in someone else's accident. Really, just that was a bit too aggressive on the second lap of the race. But great save from Dave Hedges, and he's still carrying on in 7th place. So actually moving up 2 places since the start of this race, even though he's had pretty much 2 accidents already, neither of which I don't think were his fault. So we can look now at this is
Harold making a move for the lead in the final hairpin, and he's made it happen. A bit of a wiggle behind as well for Ashton. And it's
a very difficult corner to actually get the power down, but you can see Matt Good-Scott has actually got a better exit than Harold coming onto the bowl. He's going to go high up on the outside and see if he can
his move a bit too
hold it way around.
Maybe.
But I think what he's going to do, he's going to hold it out wide and then switch back to the inside and use the gradient of the bowl to get a good run into turn 1. You can see it's slightly closed up and he's got a really good run now, so he's going to go all the way to the inside. They bang wheels coming into turn 1. It's going to be very close indeed. You don't want to have contact right now, chaps. And onto the brakes once again, so Harold keeps that position. A great move from him in the turns. I think that was turn 6 or turn 7 he made that move. But yeah, fantastic move from Harold, and he takes the lead of the race. Matt Good-Scott still looking to fight back, and he gets a wiggle coming out of turn 3.
Yeah,
so
that's
really
given
that
Harold a bit of a break as well, hasn't it? And that means that Good-Scott is a little bit further away from the toe, and that's Hardwick up the inside. He's overcooked it.
Not a good idea, especially with your teammate fighting. You want to be working together, not working against each other, to try and work together with the toe and try and catch up back to the leaders again. You don't really want to be fighting for individual points at the moment. You want to be thinking about the championship. But those 2 guys now, Matt Good-Scott still very close to the back of Harold. He is going to get a turn. We will see them side by side again. This is what we saw last time when we raced at Homestead, Miami.
Yeah,
it was one of the best races of the season purely because of this back section where everybody could just tow up to the back of one another, and it's very, very, very difficult to break away from another driver, especially if they're quite similarly paced. So Matt Good-Scott again going out wide, trying to get the switch back. He's going a bit too early in the toe, and means that he's already on the back of him. He switched back to the inside this time, so he's got the inside into turn 1, same as Harold did a few laps ago, and he's looking to try and make the move down the inside. They're both, wow, that was extremely close. Harold has to yield, and Matt Good-Scott moves into 1st place again, so great move from Matt Good-Scott to hold his lead off. We've got a few, no, that's a few other cars, so who was that? I think that was David Robertson and Hedges. Hedges going in way, way too quickly, it seemed, into the corner, and David Robertson,
in the end,
unfortunately spinning around on the grass as well, so there's another 130 racing car
another one
these guys.
For the stewards to look at there. That was not
it's
a good
very,
move.
very strange what happened there, but I don't know if Dave Hedge just went in really, really hot and couldn't get the car slowed down in time. So Dave Hedge is up for 6th position for the moment. And then we have Clumpers just in the background, just getting all squirrely and out of shape. So he's dropped down to 9th place. So that moves Michael Balding up a place into 7th now, so Michael Balding still making progress after having a bit of a nightmare start and dropping all the way down to 11th. Sean King hasn't made much progress either. He's still in 11th place with David Robson, unfortunately dropping back down to last place now that he has had that spin on the grass. So they round the banking for the 4th time, and Harold's still looking very close. In fact, he's got an excellent toe coming out the last corner. Matt Goodgescott goes to defend. Harold goes to the outside. You really don't want to be going side by side. Harold thinks better of it, lifts off nice and early. You can even pretty much start to save fuel in a battling situation purely because of the toe. It's actually quite useful as long as you work together with the other driver and start to pull away. But Jack Ashton still, I think he's definitely going to close up to these two if they keep on battling the way they are. Jack Ashton, obviously a very quick driver, and races in the MG Metro Cup as well, does a bit of real-life racing on the side of his sim racing career.
UK's top driver, I believe. Is that
he
right?
is. He is the British national driving, highest-ranked driver at the moment. So great showing from Jack Ashton in his championships so far. So again, the nice steady gap of about 3/10 from Harold. Whoa, it's very, very close to the back actually. I think he locked up the brakes going in to the final corner before going onto the bowl once again. So we've got a drive-through for David Hedges after contact. So we saw that contact earlier on with David Robson. So Dave Hedges has already taken that penalty.
Sorry to interrupt, but Harold's just gone up the inside then on the bowl section. Side by side, these two drivers almost touch again. Goodgescott stays around the outside. I don't know if he's going to cut into the slipstream. No, he tries to stay there. So they're going to be forced to go side by side through turn 1 unless one of them yields, and Goodgescott does. And it's great to see the lead change hands again, although Goodgescott gets one wheel on the grass. And it's
very, very lucky he didn't spin there.
Dangerous.
You don't want to brake, especially when you're on the grass, because the tyres on the left will instantly have more grip than the tyres on the right, and it'll end up just spearing the car off into the undergrowth. So those guys coming round the infield section now, there's still quite a tidy gap now of around 3/10 from Harold to Matt Goodgescott, still doing an excellent showing in that Cam Sport car, highest they've been so far in the championship, obviously getting that pole position and then looking to convert it into a win this evening. So it's going to be very interesting to see who comes into the pits first and tries to get out of the traffic as well. We've seen that happen a few times earlier on in the season with other drivers, and they've been managed to get a podium or even snatch a win just by being conservative, getting out of the traffic and not battling anybody else. But I think on this circuit you really need the toe to keep in check with everybody else. So we'll keep an eye on if anybody pits nice and early. Dave Hedges, of course, he's down in last place after having that drive-through penalty. And we see one car going slightly wide coming out of that. I think
that was Jack's going slightly wide there. Goodgescott's got a good run then coming out of the bowl section. So he's going to
try and go to the inside to try and get the run into turn 1. Oh, very, very close indeed.
Verstappen about that.
It was very, very similar actually as they go through into turn 2 again. The nice left-hander slowing the car down into second gear and then dropping it down into first for this very, very tight infield section. Dropping down the hill and then compressing as the car goes into the dip and then comes back out again and up through the gears as they come down towards turn 5. And Jack Ashton looking ever closer. He's starting to catch these boys pretty quickly now. Matt Goodgescott very, very late on the brakes, hits the back of Harold. You can hear a sorry in the background, in fact, as he tried to apologise to Harold there. But completely missed his braking points. Obviously, these cars don't have brake lights, so you're relying on your own braking markers to choose when to brake, because the cars don't move much under braking at all, especially when you're behind them. So a bit clumsy from Matt Goodgescott there, just forgetting his braking points, but obviously getting a bit flustered with the situation that he's in. He's got Jack Ashton hunting down very, very quickly indeed.
One key thing is that Jack Ashton is now on the back of these two. And now within just 0.4 of a second of Goodgescott in front, and that's going to give both of them a toe. This is going to make them all move together and possibly leave Hardwick out in the cold a little bit. Don't forget, of course, if Jack Ashton wins this race, he wins the championship if Hardwick stays where he is currently. Yes, so that's going to be very interesting to look out for as they go through to complete turn lap 7, in fact, onto lap 8, and all these boys definitely bunching up now. So all that toe has done is just brought these guys together. Jack Ashton getting a bit of a wiggle coming out of turn 3, and that seemed to play into the hands of Matt Goodgescott a bit, who just starts to pull away ever so slightly, but still on the back of Harold. Harold's doing a great job at the moment. It's great to see him up in a really fighting position. Francis Harold in that fantastic yellow machine.
So coming through now, these guys are not going to be pitting for a while yet. We're expecting them to pit within the 20-minute to go mark. So we've still got a good 20 minutes or so, well, 15 minutes of these guys racing.
Jack's going past Eccles, but going a little bit too fast and outbraking himself, and that's probably leaving King to close up on them slightly. Yeah,
so King's starting to make steady progress now. He's got out of the melee of what was the start, and a tiny bit messy. Obviously, it's a very difficult corner here, especially to negotiate with 12 cars going around, so it's very, very difficult indeed. Any slight bang in the wheels, especially with these open wheel cars, as we see Matt Goodgescott again getting a fantastic tow. He goes to the inside, he's trying to find a gap to just squeeze through. He tries 2 wheels up on the white line trying to go through, and he has to back out of it. Jack Ashton is going to be coming very close up behind, and Jack Ashton gets on the grass as well as Matt Goodgescott. Wow, those boys are really on the limit now, aren't they?
Yeah, Harold just gets a little bit wide as well, and that slowed him down, and now we're all within just a couple of tenths a second with all 3 of them, and Hardwick is possibly closing in on all of them.
Yeah. So we'll keep an eye out on the lap times. The last lap time around was actually Matt Goodgescott who got the fastest lap last time around, but Jack Ashton going he was late on the brakes there. He gets it starts to gather it nicely. Actually, gets a good late apex and gets a good sprint out the corner. But yeah, I think Chris Hardwick at the moment, I think he might just sit back and just wait to see what happens with this front 3 group. Obviously, very hard charges earlier on in this race. Jack Ashton again extremely late on the brakes, almost going into the back of Matt Goodgescott. Matt Goodgescott, in fact, gets a wiggle coming out of that last corner, and that's going to play into the hands of Jack Ashton. He's going to get a fantastic tow of the 2 cars in front, and we'll see who is going to lead into turn 1 once again. So these guys coming around the banking now, it's going to be Harold from Matt Goodgescott, from Ashton, from Hardwick, and then Colin Talbot, who's made a fantastic recovery after qualifying 10th. He's now up to 5th place, so fantastic from Colin at the moment. And just see him in the back of shot as we see Jack Ashton going very, very late on the brakes once again. He's great on the brakes, is Jack Ashton, it seems, going into these corners. He's looking down the inside to try and get past Matt Goodgescott. He's trying to just unnerve him to the apex, and in doing so, Jack Ashton just nearly tucked up the inside there as Goodgescott got a whap load of oversteer and had to get out the throttle. But it's all kicking off here, isn't it? It's a fantastic battle.
Absolutely.
So again, these guys start to stabilise for the moment and keep a cool head. Harold starts to go slightly out wide onto the grass just on the exit of that corner, but gets away with it nicely. And again, we're going to see Matt Goodgescott closing as they get round the bowl and onto the straight once again. These cars heading up to around 150 miles an hour where they top out in 5th gear. But very, very high first gear. In fact, you can get up to around 80 mile an hour in these cars in first gear. But Matt Goodgescott, again, extremely close. If a bit too close to the back of Harold, and that's compromised him going onto the straight because he's had to back out of the tow. And these boys now are not going to benefit from any speed advantage. And it's going to be Jack Ashton, who's behind Matt Goodgescott's wheel tracks, who's going to get the best tow out of here. You see, Matt Goodgescott went wide there to try and just open his gap a bit so he could get the tow down into the straight. They're going to be neck and neck pretty much over the line. Matt Goodgescott on the outside in the white and orange machine. We've got another car coming out of the pits, and they're going to be in the way as Harold gets a big load of oversteer, and that other car really needs to get out of the way.
That's Eccles, I think, the back marker.
Yeah, Eccles just not getting out of the way, not seeing the blue flags. And unfortunately, they've all bunched up now, so that's very, very close indeed. They all did well to avoid Eccles, who's just coming out of the pits after having made his first pit stops, the first guy to make the pit stops out of the whole group. But yeah, that was very, very close indeed for those guys.
And we're lucky that nothing interrupted this fantastic race for the lead. I think it might have gifted Hardwick a couple of tenths of a second.
Yeah, the gap seems to stabilise for Hardwick at the moment. I think he's just hanging back and preserving a bit of fuel as well as Matt Goodgescott. Again, very, very deep into the corner. Jack Ashton almost needs to go back into the back of him as they come onto the straight now. So it's going to be Matt Goodgescott who pretty much gets the best tow from Jack Ashton, who will follow him through, I'm sure, going into the last corner.
Yeah, and Ashton now looking pretty dangerous, and Goodgescott's now having to look in his mirrors just in case. Both of them are graiming on Harold in first there, and they all wiggle around on the back straight. Goodgescott goes to the outside. Ashton goes to the middle. Does he?
They're all going to the outside.
And
Jack Ashton's going to look to make a move down into turn 1. Wow, that was a very late move under brakes there. That was a bit marginal from Goodgescott. Yeah, you don't really want to be doing that too many times. Jack would have... I don't think he would have approved of that very much. But as they go through the right-hander, through the dip, and then out over the crest once again, it's still Harold from Good Scott on Jack Ashton. These boys, their heart rates must be pounding at the moment. As Jack Ashton, I think he's going to look to make a move down the inside. No, thinks better of it for the moment. Both these boys very, very late on the brakes. But it'll be interesting to see how much fuel they're using as well per lap. We're expecting around 0.8 of a litre per lap, but battling like this, it could be up to 0.9 or even higher than that. And that's really not what you want at this phase of the race, because you'll have to pop more fuel in the more that you use earlier on. So I think that's what Hardwick's doing for the moment. He's just managing his fuel, managing the gap to these guys, making sure he keeps in touch with them. And then when it comes to the pit stops, he can have more than enough fuel to see him to the end of the race.
So of course there is tyre wear and fuel, as we've said. So tyres might start to come to make a play towards the end, and I think Jack Ashton's in a bit of a hurry to get past Goodricke. I think he thinks Goodricke's holding him back, and perhaps Harold is starting to make a little bit of headway on both of them.
So Jack Ashton, great move there.
Great move.
Into second place, nice down the inside. But Matt Goodricke's going to try and come back. Well, I think it's better on it, but Jack Ashton in turn gives him room because he saw him coming. And these two are going to be side by side going through turn 4. I don't think they're going to manage it. And Goodricke actually gets that place back around the outside. That was incredible. So great move from Matt Goodricke around the outside of turn 4. And very, very close indeed. Chris Hardwick is now to the back of Jack Ashton, who nearly clips him on the back. Wow, that was very, very close indeed. And these boys definitely battling hard, but that's allowing Harold now to get a 1.5 second gap.
What a gift for Harold, but it's some fantastic racing to watch. And the two 130 racing drivers will be going at each other hammer and tongs. It's all about the championship for these two boys. Teams championship, of course, as well, but actually both of these guys can win the drivers championship as well today. And Ashton needs to win to win, really, doesn't he? Unless
yes, he needs to win to win.
To Hardwick.
Hardwick, yeah, of course. If Jack Ashton wins, Hardwick has to be 4th or higher to be champion. But we can see once again that's Jack Ashton getting a very good run on Matt Goodricke. They come to the line, almost a dead heat across the line, and then going into turn 1, he's got the inside line in. That's job done for Jack Ashton. He should be able to hopefully pull away now. But still, it was a great move from Matt Goodricke around the outside of turn 4. I couldn't believe he actually made it stick, but he did so. And Jack Ashton, in turn, gave him a lot of room, and very fair racing for everybody. We haven't really seen any contact at all, apart from Matt Goodricke missing his braking zone.
Yeah.
But apart from that, they've all seemed to got away with it. Again, he's very, very close goal. That was very, very close indeed.
Almost happened again, didn't it?
Almost happened again. Almost jinxed it. But Harold's now pulling away his 1.8 second gap lead. So Harold started to sprint away now. He's seen these guys battling and thought, right, I'm going to get a move on and break away from these boys. So Jack Ashton getting absolutely no tow at all from the car in front, which is Harold, which is just too far away to punch a big hole in the air for him to drive through. And in turn, Matt Goodricke and Chris Hardwick are going to be the ones that are going to benefit, obviously. And then Michael Balding, remember, down in, up to 5th position after starting down in 8th place. So he's one to still look out for.
I think Talbot's made a pit stop. So he was pitted from 5th.
Yes.
And he is the only one to make a pit stop, I believe, apart from...
Well, Eccles has made a pit stop as well.
Sorry, my fault. Yeah. Obviously, we know that Hedges had a drive-through penalty.
Yes.
So he served that. But in terms of pit stops, only Talbot and Eccles are the bottom 2. You do lose almost a lap. You do.
It's because it's such a long pit lane, and it's also just 50 mile an hour. And when the cars are passing 150, it's it feels like you're just walking down the pit lane. But these guys still very, very close together for the moment. But it does, if you do pit early, you do break out of the whole gap, and just you can start to control your own race and then get into the fight towards the end. But of course, your tyres are going to be much more worn by then, so you want to really get the battling done early and then try and sprint away and manage the gap from there, which is exactly what Francis Harold is doing for the moment.
So it's hard to believe, but we're already 20 minutes gone in this race.
We are, and we've only got 25 minutes left, so we're almost halfway through. And we will expecting to see some pit stops within the next 10 minutes or so, where we'll see the major ones. So the leaders will come in for their fuel stops. We're not expecting any tyre changes whatsoever, because the tyre wear isn't so bad around here. Even though we've got a high-speed bowl, it seems to manage it quite well. So these guys coming on to lap 16 now as they come through turn 1 into the heavy braking zone at turn 2, down to just 80 miles an hour, clipping that apex before dropping down into first gear, going through the very, very tight left and right-handers. So it's still Harold leading from Jack Ashton in second place, Matt Goodge-Scott, our pole man, in third. Chris Hardwick just hanging back, seeing what happens with the front four at the moment, with Michael Balding in fifth and Jackson sixth, Sean King in seventh, and Dave Hedges recovering from his melees and a drive-through penalty earlier on in the race. And then I think most of the people, such as Clumpers, Robertson and Talbot and Eccles, in fact, have all pitted for their fuel stop, so they can go now to the end of the race and manage their fuel. So again, these guys start to calm down for a tiny bit as they come through the bowl section at the moment. I think they're just trying to manage their fuel now as we get closer to the pit stop window. As they go through, I think Matt Goodge-Scott is still close enough to Jack Ashton to try and potentially make a move here. You can see him closing all the time, going through the back section of the circuit onto the bowl and onto the straight. Once again, we come over to complete lap 17 now. We'll complete lap 16 on to 17, and Matt Goodge-Scott very, very close to the back at Jack Ashton. He's going to try and look to the inside potentially into turn 2, but doesn't manage to do so. So still getting a great toe, and didn't get a great run off that turn 2 either. So he's dropped back slightly on Jack Ashton, who looks nice and steady for the moment, nice and in control. But it's still Harold up front doing a fantastic job at the moment. Francis Howell to keep that first place and start to. The gap hasn't really come down, but it's stabilised at 1.5 seconds now, so it's come down ever so slightly. But he still looks very much in control of this race for the moment. So it could all change during the pit stops. Obviously, you want to go, if you want to try and be as quick as you can in the quick as possibly can in the pit stops, and
but not get a penalty.
And not get a penalty. If you do 52 miles an hour, you're going to get a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So you really don't want that.
50.1.
50.1 even. I think there's a tiny bit of lenience on it.
Yeah,
a tiny bit of lenience.
You're right.
But still, yeah, it's going to be very, very close. Those guys are going to be hovering over that throttle pedal, just guiding it to make sure they don't go over that 50 mile an hour speed limit. Obviously, these cars don't have a button for speed limiter like the GTE cars we use in the Simply Race Endurance Series do, so it's all up to the drivers and the restriction and the control of their right foot to make sure they don't overdo it in the pit lane.
So this is halfway then, exactly halfway. So
we are, yeah.
We really should be starting to see a few more pit stops for fuel.
We've got Chris Hardwick now actually looking at the back of Matt Goodge-Scott. He closed up quite a lot in that last lap.
Yeah,
and,
he 18.2 last time round. We just got 19.1. So Hardwick's on the move. Then he's making his push.
Absolutely,
He's
and
actually
those times
lap
are
driver as well. Sorry,
3/10 quicker than the qualifying lap time as well.
Right.
So quite incredible pace from these guys at the moment, especially with 25 minutes of worn tyres.
Absolutely, and the quickest lap was done by Chris Hardwick, 1:18.126. Just trying to see when that was. 2 laps. No, that was.
Well, his last lap was 1:18.2, so he's doing consistently low 1:18s.
And Goodge-Scott seems to have dropped pace a little bit, but I don't know if he's back.
Yeah,
he's back on it now.
In saying that, yeah, he's just got a great run on Jack. Well, he will have a great run on Jack as we go through the back section of the circuit now. You can tell Jack's car by the purple roll hoop as he comes through the final corner now. You can just see he's just closing. And Matt Goodge-Scott is going to be right on him. He tries to go to the inside, but Jack Ashton holds his line on the inside to make sure he has to go around the outside for turn 1. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they go side by side through here. Matt Goodge-Scott backs out of it. Again, close to the grass. They come through turn 2.
Goodge-Scott just set the best lap of the race. 18.035, obviously aided by a massive toe
from the 2 cars in front. But not one but 2 cars punching a great hole in the air for Chris Hardwick to just drive through. But still, Matt Goodge-Scott, he's really looking fighting this race, and in doing so, it's slowing Jack Ashton down a bit and allowing Harold to still break away. Francis Harold on that last lap was 1:18.4, but you've got to remember that's without a toe. And last lap around, Matt Goodge-Scott actually popped in the fastest lap of the race, 1:18.0. So pretty incredible there, but I think that was helped by a fantastic toe down towards the main straight and over the start-finish line once again, and it's almost a repeat as what we saw last lap. So Matt Goodge-Scott is going to be very, very close to the back of Jack Ashton. He'll get a great toe. You can see it, 3 car lengths pretty much 2 car lengths now. We'll get down to about 1 car length now as they go round the bowl. He's going to go to the outside because Jack Ashton's going to hold his nerve on the inside. And Matt Goodgescott might look to switch to the inside. He tries it.
And Harold's in. So this is now the race lead then. These 2 drivers, and Harold will make his pit stop, and we'll keep you up to date on where he comes back out. And bit of contact.
He locked up there, in fact, and just cuts up Chris Hardwick, in fact. But that was very close indeed. You can see his tyres just lock up there as he really, really hard on the brakes to try and not crash into the back of Jack Ashton. But in turn, that's let Jack Ashton get away by about around a second gap there. So unfortunately for Matt Goodgescott, as now we've got a battle between him and Chris Hardwick. So just getting a bit flustered, I think, is Matt Goodgescott. Still doing a fantastic job, obviously, trying to hold these 130 racing boys off. And not only do we see the Cam Sport cars in this USSC Championship, we also see them in the Simply Race Endurance Championship. As Chris Hardwick trying to just unnerve Matt Goodgescott to try and make a move. He's got a great run coming out of the last corner. And Chris Hardwick goes to the outside, but he's going to be too early coming out of the toe, and the cars will equalise in speed. And then
Harold, sorry, just to interrupt, Harold is just coming out of the pits now, so
it's almost a lap, isn't it?
Yeah, it's almost a lap. So
getting up to speed again.
3/4 of a lap, roughly.
Absolutely, and Matt Goodgescott is actually onto the banking now.
Oh, they all dive.
They all dive. Actually, no, because did you see that? So Chris Hardwick actually got into the pits before Matt Goodgescott, but then they're both down the pit lane, both at the same time. I hope that Matt Goodgescott is before Chris Hardwick, otherwise Chris Hardwick is going to turn across on Matt Goodgescott. But it's going to be very interesting to see. So Matt Goodgescott actually pulls into his box. He's going to stop before that stopped car.
Wow!
And that was great. But did his car just lift up at the back? Is he taking tyres?
I'm not sure.
I don't think he is.
And then he sort of slowed down his teammate there because.
We've also got another car just coming out of the pit. Well, coming into his pot. Sorry, that's
must be
Michael Balding.
Balding, yeah, absolutely. So where's Harold then? Harold currently.
There he is coming around the back of the circuit. So these guys they'll be getting ready to go anytime soon. So we'll keep an eye on the pit lane just to see who's going to come out first. And that's I think that's so that's Jack Ashton away and out into the lead of the race. It seems as I don't think Harold's going to have an answer for this. So Harold's actually got out behind everybody else. So everybody else putting in less fuel than Harold, and unless he had a mistake on that lap, he's lost his lead. And now that puts Jack Ashton in the lead of the race, with Matt Goodgescott in second place, and the gap quite similar, even though they all came into the pits
amazing, isn't it?
side by side. It was very very strange to see everybody having different entry into the pit lane, because you have to come off the bowl and onto the flat bit, which can unsettle the cars massively.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Jack Ashton now leads, and poor old Francis Harold has dropped out by around 4 or 5 seconds. He had quite a commanding race lead, in fact, so he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to get on.
Perhaps he put
even to
a
the
bit
podium.
Too much fuel in, or perhaps the others put
too less. Put too little in. So we're expecting around 12 litres, we imagine, because of a long time on the throttle, exactly the point where we are now, where they're on the throttle all the way around the bowl until turn 1 once again, which is around, I think it's about a mile long. So those guys on the throttle the whole time, but now Harold's going to have to use some of his fantastic driving skills to get back into that first place. But for the moment, it looks like Chris Hardwick is going to win the championship.
Well, all that has to happen is Hardwick lose 1 place.
Well, if Jack Ashton wins, which at the standings he is at the moment, then Hardwick has to be third to win the championship. So at the moment, Hardwick will win the championship.
So, but if he drops 1 place now to
Jack Ashton will win.
Then Jack Ashton will
his
win.
teammate. So a bit of inter-team rivalry here. It's Simply Race is fantastic to have such an intense battle in the last round of the championship. Especially on a day like today. We hope anywhere you have been in the UK that you've had the glorious weather that we've had down here at Milton Keynes. We've all been getting slightly sunburnt today as we've been out working elsewhere. But fantastic weather all week round for this Bank Holiday Monday. Woohoo! I'm so glad it's Bank Holiday Monday.
You're just tired.
I'm so glad. I am tired. But
Darren's checking.
Darren's pretty tired as well.
Darren is checking his
suntan.
Suntan, but Unfortunately, he's been inside a black tent all day with me. In
a great
Jump
colour of
Fest in
tent
Homestead.
for the conditions.
Yeah, really, really appreciated that. But thank you to Fancy Tyres for inviting us down. So
let's see what.
We're a bit spread out now, which is.
Yeah, so let's see. Really,
this is where tyres are going to come.
This
into
is where,
really,
yeah, absolutely. It's going to be tyres and consistency and keeping it on the road. At the moment, it's looking like the DM racing cars, Michael Balding and Dave Hedges in 5th and 8th position. Those guys are not going to be in contention for the championship. I'm not sure where they're going to come. If Michael Balding may finish 3rd. I'll have to quickly clarify that, just adding up some scores. But as we look for the moment, it's still we're looking at. I believe this is this is Dave Hedges and Jax, both coming round
we
turn
haven't really
2.
covered some of the rest of the field because there's been so much going on at the front.
It is, yeah. So we've got Cyril Jax in the silver car that we're watching on shot now, with Dave Hedges just right behind him. And Dave Hedges may be looking to make a move. He looks to the inside, tries to unnerve Cyril Jax, but doesn't seem to make it happen. Jax goes a bit wide on the exit, but manages to recover it quite well. And out onto the back straight once again. But I'm sure Dave Hedges, as long as he doesn't mess up the next couple of corners, he's going to have a great run around the back end of the circuit. So they come through the left-hander now, down into first gear, getting the car stopped nicely on the apex, and then accelerating out once again. Just behind Dave Hedges in that green and black camo car is another green and black car of Sean King, who's trying to chase down this battle for 7th place, and doing a very good job of it at the moment. Seems to be the fastest out of these 3 drivers as they come round the bowl. He'll be getting a fantastic double toe off this 2-car trade in front. So Dave Hedges closes on Cyril Jax. They come down into turn 1. I don't think there's going to be any battles for the moment. Oh, sorry, so this... Okay, so Howell's just dropped down into 5th as well, behind Michael Balding. Thanks for pointing that out, Darren, as we are watching this battle. So this is the battle, in fact. So this is Dave Hedges and Francis Harold, both almost side by side, coming into,
so
I think this is turn 6.
Harold, sorry.
Yeah, this is Michael Balding and Harold, so this is battle for 4th. And what happened to Harold then? He's dropped down quite a considerable margin. He must have had a spin or some sort, because he was only a second behind Chris Hardwick.
This is good news for Hardwick, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And it's also good news for Michael Balding, who moves up a place in the championship, I believe, into 3rd. So we'll keep an eye out for that. But it's Francis Harold still fighting back now to try and regain all that time that he lost. So he goes round the outside, coming towards the start-finish straight. They're almost a dead heat. Michael Balding still ahead as they come into turn 1. Very good switchback. And oh no, wow! How did he control that on the brakes? Great stopping from Francis Harold just to get the car slowed down. Michael Balding moving a tiny bit into the braking zone there, and
touching at 100 miles per hour.
Well, it was more than that, more like 130. It seemed, going into that corner. Very, very close indeed for those guys. But you don't want to be moving around too much in the braking zone, especially with these open wheel cars, because if you even just tap the guy in front of you, you're going to go into a massive spin and also flat spot your tyres, which is very annoying.
Yeah.
Because you get a lot of vibration through the wheel, which can
pieces.
Yeah, so you really don't want to be getting that, especially in this race where you're not changing tyres at all. Michael Balding actually going off onto the grass ever so slightly there, and Francis Harold again nerves him up the back, and that wasn't a great move from Harold.
Him.
He just no, he did. I think that was definitely a bit of a touch. Going into that corner, Francis Harold actually backs out and lets Michael Balding resume his position, but still just a tiny bit too late on the brakes for Francis Harold. Same as what happened to Matt Goodschott and Harold earlier, in fact, when Harold was leading the race. So they come round the last corner now, and Francis Harold again with a great run goes to the inside. Michael Balding doesn't defend quickly enough, and they go through the turn. Oh no, and that's really not gone well. So
I think that
was a bit. I think racing incident. I think really, because neither one gave enough room, really. Francis Harold could have gone to the inside a tiny bit more. Michael Balding really should have just let him concede that place, really, I think, at the moment. But they still...
I think once you've got a car at the inside of turn 1...
Yeah, you just got to hang back and then keep with them until
give them the space at the apex as well, because you have to run a little bit wide because you're carrying 130 miles an hour, as we already talked about. So, and on a tight angle as well.
Yeah, it's a very tricky corner, and obviously both drivers on the absolute limit there, trying to make sure they gave no extra inch to either driver, but unfortunately it hasn't paid off them, and they've slipped even further back, which is still great news for Chris Hardwick. He'll be rubbing his hands together when he sees the delta time and sees so many people far behind him. We see Sean King getting a wobble coming out of turn 5, but yeah, still not great for Francis Harold and Michael Balding. They've now dropped. I mean, Harold was leading the race, and now he's 17 seconds adrift from the leader, Jack Ashton. So really not a great stint since Francis Harold came out the pits, unfortunately, after such an impressive first stint. We really impressed by his pace at the start of this race, but unfortunately it just hasn't worked out for him. We're in the final 10 minutes of this race and final 10 minutes of the championship for this year in the USSC Championship here at Simply Race. And for the moment it looks like, well, if the standings stay as they are, Chris Hardwick will become the champion of 2018 in double champion. In fact, I believe he won last year as well, so he'll be retaining his championship status as they go through these. This is the battle for, I believe, seventh position. So Dave Hedges in that green, black and red camo car, DM racing car, of course, and Cyril Jacks. Pardon?
Is it not DJM Racing?
No, it's DM Racing. I said DJM Racing and it was wrong for the first half of the season, but it's not. It's a DM Racing car. My apologies for those guys. I did get a ticking off from Michael on the Facebook comments, so I made sure I read my rule book for next time. But those guys still got a pretty good fan base. You see Cyril Jacks going slightly too deep, almost going into the back of it. We've seen a lot of that tonight, haven't we? It's a bit too much.
There's a lot of hairpins.
Heavy braking zones as well. A lot of hairpins, a lot of heavy braking zones. This is the battle for second place now. So Chris Hardwick and Matt Goodger-Scott. Now Chris Hardwick really here, he needs to keep a cool head, because if they have any contact whatsoever, it doesn't even need to. So Matt Goodger-Scott, unfortunately, just... that's great, we actually cut to that, but Matt Goodger-Scott, unfortunately, just getting a wheel onto the grass, and that's made Chris Hardwick even more of a happy man, because now he's in second place and got more points onto the championship. But good timing there, Darren. Very good timing indeed. But unfortunately for Matt Goodger-Scott, just getting two wheels up on that grass, accelerating too hard and dropping back, and that could have played into the hands of Harold, obviously. But unfortunately he dropped back. We didn't manage to see how much time he lost there. I think he lost about 6 or 7 seconds, which sounds like the time you lose in a spin.
Yeah.
Obviously, as Matt Goodger-Scott has lost exactly that. So unfortunately for him, he went head on into the barriers. Lucky we don't have damage on in this championship, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, that would have been a big one.
That would have been a big one.
It would have. You'd have to reset the car and everything.
Absolutely. So we're watching Chris Hardwick now coming through the last corner. He's got a 2.2 second gap to Jack Ashton, and just up ahead of him. So as they come through now, the 130 racing cars, obviously in the championship, teams championship, these two guys, 130 racing, will win the team championship as well, or will it? No, it's because Jack Ashton's actually in a different team, isn't he? So it's actually Chris Hardwick and David Robertson. No, Mark Winwood, who isn't here, unfortunately.
He's stuck at Donington.
Stuck at Donington. So it looks like DM Racing could potentially win the team championship. So we'll definitely clarify that. We'll work it out.
Get a calculator out. Are you going to try and work out?
I will do that. Actually, hang on, because... I will explain. I only got a C in maths and GCSE, so we may be waiting a while. Well, I'll let you do some talking.
GCSE. So if you told me you got an A star, I would have believed you.
I know, but I didn't. That's because if I told you I got an A star and then couldn't work out this simple maths equation.
I think I would use a calculator. And sorry, Darren. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Actually, I don't have...
I remember last year's calculations done by Anthony Jordan, and they were slightly off.
Ever so slightly, but we'll breeze over that as we come into the almost into the final 5 minutes
Mr.
of
Producer,
this race.
Can we watch 7th place? It looks close. Or, no, 7th place. Oh, it's not that close. Maybe.
Well, it's the closest battle on track at the moment.
Jax just keeps going a little bit too deep everywhere.
Into the corners, yeah.
Probably that front right is probably
Yeah, it's going to be very worn now, especially if they're really hard on the brakes.
Yeah.
It's definitely the front right that takes the most beating throughout the track, especially on the right-hand side because of that long right-hand bowl section. Obviously, this track naturally used for NASCAR. But going around to the infield section again, you can see that the car's understeering, but still drifting through quite nicely there by Cyril Jacks. Good driving from him going through turn 2 there. It was nicely done. But as they dip down through that section, you don't want to do exactly what Matt Scott just did. That was very close indeed. Oh, pardon me. As we go through towards turn 4 now, turn 5 even, sorry. The right-hander, second gear, get early on the power. And down towards the straight once again.
So the final 5 minutes of the race. Then who's been your most impressive drive today?
Standout driver. I think it's got to be. Unfortunately, had a spin, but it's got to be Matt Scott. I think Matt Scott tied with Harold. Unfortunately, his score has gone down. Unfortunately, after his pit stops.
Yeah.
For the first quarter of the race. First quarter of the race definitely got to be Francis Harold because he was so commanding and so good for the first half.
He pulled out a nice sort of 1.75 second lead.
But we'll see. We'll ask him after the race just see how much fuel he actually put in and if he just overfueled the car or if he had a spin on the outlap. But unfortunately, he just seemed to just lose that quite healthy gap that he had to Jack Ashton and Matt Scott at the time. So the battle for first place within 2 seconds at the moment. We're still watching the battle for 7th at the moment between Hedges and Jacks, and this is the closest battle on track, only separated by around 0.8 of a second. Jacks again looking very, very strong on the brakes, but there's time still as we're watching the delta time still coming down to Jack Ashton. But I still don't think that
probably not enough,
Chris Hardwick is going to make a demanding move or anything like that. He knows that I think he's well comforted for the championship. He knows exactly what he needs to do, and again Jack's demonstrating what we've been saying. He's still very, very late on the brakes and ends up just nerving the back of Dave Hedges' car. Dave Hedges, quite wise to it, gets out of the throttle and straightens his car up again, but still wasn't necessary there from Jacks to go so late into the brakes. Maybe Dave Hedges may be conserving fuel as well. That's why he's so it seems that he's lifting and coasting, potentially going into some of the corners. But now that gap has opened up thanks to that tiny bit of contact that we had.
So last time round, half a second difference between Ashton and Hardwick. So probably don't have enough time, but if you squeeze in another 2 laps, that will be half a second, which then puts Ashton in into sort of danger zone for the draft.
It does, but I don't think Chris Hardwick is a smart kid. I don't think he's going to do anything silly and try and mount a charge on Jack Ashton and go for the win when he doesn't really need to clinch the championship.
To be fair to Jack, he's just done a purple sector in Sector 2, but Chris Hardwick's done a purple sector in Sector 1.
And that's with worn tyres as well. So
yes.
These guys, obviously, the fuel's going down there, so it'll be very low fuel. But still, for them to be setting purples with worn tyres is quite incredible. Obviously, you get very dialed into the circuit after 45 minutes worth of racing. But those guys still doing a great job to hang on to their positions for the moment. This is the penultimate lap.
Yeah.
In fact, we'll get one more after this. And as they come through turns 4 and 5 now, and down towards turn 6, so it's still Jack Ashton leading from Chris Hardwick and Matt Scott in 3rd place. Chris Hardwick weaving about a tiny bit there. I'm not really sure what that was about. Maybe trying to
having fun.
Having a bit of fun. It's nearly the end of the championship, unfortunately, for these guys. But we still be
celebrating early, maybe.
He is, yeah, maybe, but you don't want to celebrate too early. For the moment, we've just run down the order quickly. So Matt Scott in 3rd with Harold in 4th. Michael Balding in the DM racing car in 5th position, made up a good few places. Colin Talbot, again, a good showing from him, making up a few places into 6th. Cyril Jacks in 7th with Dave Hedges in 8th. Jason Eccles in 9th place with Erwin Klumpers in 10th, moving up a few positions. David Robson, not really sure what happened to David.
He's tired.
Is he?
He's tired.
Oh right. He has been just doing an endurance race this weekend, so he is pretty tired, I think. But and then
blisters.
He's got blisters on his hands, so he's driving with his fingertips.
He's got legitimate injuries.
and then
He's
Sean
with his
King.
feet, is that what you just
No,
said?
no, it's with his fingertips,
Oh, sorry,
not with his
okay.
feet.
I said, that's really impressive.
That would be
I would
well.
like- oh no!
So who's?
Is that
Oh no, that's
Ashton?
just someone getting out of the way.
Oh.
I think that's David.
Oh
David
my
Robinson
God,
getting out of the way. I thought that was Jack
I
Ashton then,
thought Jack
running out of
Ashton.
fuel. There's too many 130 racing cars in here. And then Sean King to round out the running order in 12th. The race obviously hasn't finished yet. We're on the final lap as we're to the final second, in fact. So that's the timer all the way down to 0, and this is the last lap. So it's Jack Ashton who leads by 1.7 seconds to Chris Hardwick, who will be in a few corners' time the 2018 USSC champion. With Matt Goodger-Scott a well-deserved third place as long as he can keep it on the road. It seems to be for the meantime that he will do it with Francis Harold. Great showing from him, leading the race early on with Michael Balding in 5th. But for the moment, Jack Ashton watched the race earlier on, had some cracking battles. We'll have to go back and watch it later just to take in what was happening because it was so flustered for us. But still, Jack Ashton is coming through to win round 4 of the USSC Championship here at Simply Race. But Chris Hardwick is the 2018 champion and back-to-back championship, in fact, after winning last season as well. So a demanding and very well-deserved championship win for Chris Hardwick in the 130 racing car. And those two boys celebrating in style. Matt Goodger-Scott in 3rd place with Francis Harold coming back in 4th. Colin Talbot actually got Michael Balding on the line, it seems, in 5th place. So, Michael Balding's ran out of fuel. So unfortunately, just at the end of the race, I don't know if he's going to make it to the line. In fact, he's slowing down, and we'll see the cars coming through around the back of shot. But Michael Balding, unfortunately, oh no, Michael, what have you done?
Can he make it?
I don't think he's going to. I think the car's slowing down, but Eccles is coming round the back section of the circuit. You can hear him almost crying in the background. But is he going to make it?
No,
I don't
stay
know.
low, stay low, stay low, stay on the flat bit.
Oh no, you
Oh
can't!
no! They come.
Oh, sorry, Michael, but coming
So
over
that was
ninth
the
place.
best. You can hear the cries in the background.
Oh no!
Oh dear. Well, that was entertaining, and there's lots of donuts going on, which is nice as well. It's very NASCAR. And,
Oh god, we're so sorry, Michael. We're so sorry, but that is the worst case scenario.
Absolutely.
Oh, worst case scenario, but
It was
that's
quite.
provided some great entertainment for the end of the championship. Me and Ben are both crying. But,
It was more the cries in the background. And the guys watching to see whether he was going to make it before Eccles and I think it was Clumpers as well. But anyway, that was fantastic. So I think it's probably time to wrap
Chris
it up.
Hardwick is champion, but
Yes,
congratulations, Chris
to Jack
Hardwick.
Ashton, the winner of today's race, and even bigger congratulations to Chris Hardwick, the Season 2 USSC champion. Do tune in next week for the SRBC, the Simply Race British Championships, which will involve some racing with touring cars, Clio Cups, and the same cars again, but all on the Donington Park National Circuit. So tune in next week. They will be live from around 1 o'clock, and we'll see you then.